everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Bianca Collins. I'm the curator of public programs for the Fowler Museum at UCLA. The Fowler Museum is thrilled to be welcoming visitors back to our galleries, but for now we are continuing to offer our programs virtually. So thank you for joining us today or tonight, depending on where it is you're tuning in from around the world. The Fowler is proud to present today's program as part of our Lunch and Learn series, which offers easily digestible explorations of charismatic objects from around the world. We're so pleased that you've joined us to chew on some sustenance and feed your mind and soul. A spectacular, ornately decorated Gong circle is included in the Fowler's current exhibition, The Map and the Territory, 100 Years of Collecting at UCLA. Southeast Asian music ensembles have been prominent in UCLA's ethnomusicology program since its beginnings in the 1950s. Central to the program was this idea of bi-musicality, that researchers of foreign music ought to learn to perform in the traditions they study. Today, we are pleased to be joined by Supeena, Insee, Adler, and Otto Stuparitz, who will offer presentations about Southeast Asian music ensembles from Bali, Java, Philippines, and Thailand, among the first Asian ensembles established at UCLA. Supeena Insee Adler is an adjunct assistant professor, world musical instrument collection curator, and director of the Music of Thailand Ensemble at UCLA. She received her BFA in Thai classical music from Mahasarakham University in Thailand, her MA in Southeast Asian Studies, and PhD in music ethnomusicology from UC Riverside. Adler restored the Thai instrument collection and reestablished the Music of Thailand Ensemble at UCLA in 2015. Her main areas of interest include Thai royal court music, music and community, musical instruments, mediums, and healing rituals, music in Northeast Thailand and Southern Laos, Thai music performance in Southern California, and Okinawan Minyo. Otto Stuparitz is a PhD candidate in the Department of Ethnomusicology at UCLA Herb Alpert School of Music. He has received numerous fieldwork and archival research grants in Indonesia and the Netherlands, as well as a Student of the Month award from the Society of Ethnomusicology. For 15 years, he has studied traditional and popular music of Indonesia. He also helped revive UCLA's Javanese gamelan ensemble. Stuparitz is currently completing a dissertation on the role of Indonesian popular music sound archives in the historiography of jazz in Indonesia. In May 2021, he released a recording with Sundanese jazz and traditional musicians titled Bluesukan. Before we get going, I have a few quick technical bits of housekeeping. Once the screen sharing begins, I encourage you to click View Options and then select side-by-side mode so the video feeds don't cover any of the presentations. We also have some great musical selections that will be played today. We recommend that you use a pair of headphones for the best auditory experience. Finally, if you have any questions during this program, please do submit them through the Q&A function found at the bottom of your Zoom screen. You can submit and upvote questions that you would like to be considered to be answered at the end of the program. Okay, that's enough from me. Over to you, Otto.
Thank you, Bianca, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Let me share all right. So I want to continue on from a presentation that was given in July by my colleagues Tyler Yaman and Professor Helen Rees, who is the director of the UCLA World Music Center. They gave a talk about the instrument on the left of the screen, the Javanese rabab spiked fiddle, that is on display at the Fowler, The Map and the Territory exhibition. So I encourage you to look back at that presentation to learn more about that instrument. So for this presentation and my part of it, I'm going to discuss other parts of the Indonesian ensembles at UCLA, and I will focus on one of the main collectors of these instruments, Ki Mantle Hood, featured there on the photo on the right. Mantle Hood not only is a world-renowned Indonesianist scholar, but he also helped establish the Institute of Ethnomusicology at UCLA, which later became the Department of Ethnomusicology, which is one of the largest of these kinds of programs in the world. So this is meant to be a general introduction for these instruments. So these are other parts of the Javanese ensemble at UCLA. The Javanese ensemble is called a gamelan. And these instruments are made out of bronze, the bronze metal, so they're a very resonant tone. And the UCLA Javanese gamelan has a unique name called Kiai, which translates to the Venerable Dark Cloud. So I'm going to play some audio of myself playing these instruments in the order 1, 2, 3, 4. And so we have a little bit idea of what they sound like. This is just an overview, and we have a very large collection. So if there are any questions about specific instruments, I can answer them in the Q&A. But for now, let's try to think that the bronze instruments are very resonant. And so when they're hit, often one has to mute the instrument before hitting the next note. So not only is somebody playing and striking, but actually hitting, muting, and then striking another pot or bar, depending on which one you're playing. So let's take a listen. And again, I recommend the headphones, especially for the gong. So this is Mantle Hood. He's the one who purchased these instruments and helped establish the Institute of Ethnomusicology at UCLA. He earned his MA in composition in 1951, and then he went to go study with the most renowned Indonesian music scholar at the time, named Jaap Kunst, who was at the University of Amsterdam. And Jaap Kunst is known to have coined the term ethnomusicology, and he wrote a very well-respected book called Music of Java in 2 volumes. But he did not focus on playing the music that he studied. Mantle Hood thought to improve these methods through this bi-musicality concept, which would lead to researcher to play the music of the cultures that they study, leading to greater understandings. And this concept is now widely used in ethnomusicology programs throughout the world. Students can learn to play music from many parts of the world, learning about different cultures and worldviews at the same time. And a very important thing you need to implement the bi-musicality methodology is quality instruments. So these are some of the receipts that Mantle Hood has from purchasing the Venerable Dark Cloud, the Javanese gamelan, in 1958, that he purchased through a Ford Foundation grant. He bought the ensemble from a Chinese merchant in the central Javanese town called Surakarta, and he brought it to a nearby town called Yogyakarta, where he added some instruments, like the large bonang penumbung, which is an octave lower, a special instrument of that region. And so by combining these 2 regions, which are the most major styles of Central Javanese gamelan, the UCLA Ensemble can play in both styles, which makes it ideal for a learning ensemble. Also, for my own research, there's a lot of these receipts that are still in Dutch, and in Indonesia, the colonial power was the Netherlands. So it's interesting to me that even at this late stage, when Indonesia was independent, there's still a lot of language of business and bureaucracy using some Dutch words. The students who studied on the Javanese ensemble have started gamelans at other universities, such as University of Washington, University of Wisconsin-Madison, UC Berkeley, and Wesleyan. So it wasn't just the Javanese ensemble that he purchased, but he also purchased a Balinese music ensemble through a similar, through the same grant, the same era. So this is called a Gong Kibiar ensemble. And so we see 2 instruments from this, the trompong on the left, which is another pot gong. And then on the right, we have the jegogan. I'll have another recording of the instruments on the right to highlight the tuning of Balinese gamelan, which often is the instruments are in pairs and often a little bit off from each other, or always off from each other, where the distinct correct tone is both of the instruments playing together to kind of make this wave-like quality called ombak, which means like a wave, like an ocean. So let me play this example so you can kind of hear what that sounds like. So here are more instruments of the Music of Bali ensemble. So on the left, we see the gender wayang, which is played in pairs, and then sometimes you add another pair, so it's a quartet, an octave up. And these instruments are used for shadow puppet plays, or coming of age rituals and other kinds of funeral ceremonies as part of religious practice in Bali. Another advantage of having instruments at the university is that groups from different places in the world could come visit UCLA and perform their music. So we see a visiting group from Bali in 1962 from the region of Tabanan, and they're playing the Gong Kibiar. And in the front, we see a man playing the suling, which is a bamboo flute. Behind him, we see that gender. And right next to him, we actually see more rabab, which are the spike fiddles, but they're actually different rabab than the ones we saw at the beginning. And so we kind of get a feeling about how many instruments this collection does have and continues to grow. So here's one of the student ensembles performing in 1964. And if we recognize it, this is actually in front of Kirchhoff Hall, if we remember what UCLA looks like anymore. The drummer is Harja Susilo, who is very important for the early, one of the early teachers of the Balinese and Javanese at UCLA. And the dancer is Hazel Chung, who is Mantlehood's wife. They're performing a piece called Badis, which unfortunately I don't have audio for this particular performance, but I do have from another performance to kind of give a feeling about what a whole ensemble sounds like. So this one's a little bit loud, but I think it should be okay. So those are always very fun performances to watch, because the dancer and the drummer always interact, and those last hits are the dancer and the drummer are interacting with each other. So it's great to see, and this kind of dance is performed widely. So to start wrapping up my section of this, I just want to thank the Ethnomusicology Archive, because that's where I got a lot of these materials from. And if you have any more questions or want to inquire more, this is the first place to go. And there's been a lot of resources that have been available online, and it continues to digitize their collections. So check out their online resources and contact their staff, because they are a great resource. Supeena Adler, who will be presenting shortly, will talk about the Global Field Recordings Initiative, where more of these field recordings from around the world are available online for the first time, I believe starting last year. So my last slide, I want to just point out an ensemble that we actually don't know that much about, that I found at the archive, that it shows people using these instruments creatively. Instead of just learning the traditions, they're actually using to make different kinds of music and trying different combinations. We see this notation in front, so we know that that's not what somebody would use if they use notation at all for a Javanese ensemble. And then if we look on the photo on the left, we actually see Javanese pots on the bottom row, but above are the Kulintan pots from the Philippines. And if we see on the right, there's the man in the suit and the tie, and he's actually playing the Thai Ramat Ek, named David Morton, who was one of the founders of the UCLA Thai Ensemble, and one of the most influential early Thai scholars. So with that, I want to give it over to Supeena Adler, who's going to continue talking about the Kulintan from the Philippines, the Thai Ensemble, and some of the new initiatives we have going on today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Supeena Insee Adler, and today I will present about UCLA Southeast Asia Music Ensemble, focusing on two ensembles, the Kulintan from the Philippines and the Music of Thailand Ensemble. Here are photos of Kulintan Ensemble from Jose Maceda collection in the Ethnomusicology archive, consisting of tune gong roll, hanging knob gong, and a drum. The ensemble at UCLA was brought to US by Jose Maceda. At the time, he was a grad student of the Professor Key Mantenhood. After graduating from UCLA, he returned to the Philippines, where he established the ethnomusicology program at the University of the Philippines. Although the Gulintan Ensemble at UCLA not being active for a long time, we regularly arrange opportunities for the instrument to be played. As here, when prominent members of Southern California Filipino music scenes performed for the Adam Matthew Digital Project in 2019 inside UCLA's recording studio. This is a picture and a sound example of the UCLA Gulintan instruments performed by local artists whose names are shown at the bottom right of the picture. The UCLA Ethnomusicology Archive just published these digital books, Our Culture Resounds, Our Future Reviews, a legacy of Filipino-American performing arts in California, and it may be downloaded for free online. It is a community partnership between the archive and Ube Ate, and a fine example of scholars and local artists working together for benefit of the wider community. And just this year, we acquired a set of 25 suranae. These are a suspend row of knob metal plate that can be used for play and study Gulintan repertoire. We will use these for student and community workshops directed by local specialists in Gulintan. And if all go well, we will host a public performance by the end of this academic year. Now let's move to the music of Thailand Ensemble. Working in 1960s as a graduate student at UCLA, David Morton was the first American to study Thai traditional music in Thailand. Later, as a professor, he established the Music of Thailand Ensemble, and it was one of the UCLA most permanent and active ensemble until eventually stopping in 1980s. His main musical instrument was the principal wooden xylophone, Ratnat Ek, seen here in the bottom picture. He wrote the first major monograph of Thai music, Thai traditional music of Thailand, and published many articles on Thai music. Here are some pictures of instruments that acquired from Thailand for UCLA in the 1960s. In 2015, I restored many of the Thai musical instruments in UCLA's collection and was later able to reactivate the Music of Thailand Ensemble. Since then, we have performed concerts, conducted workshops for students and community, and participated in a major Thai music ritual, formally integrating the ensemble and the instrument back to the greater Thai musical society. Here is another picture of the Music of Thailand Ensemble class, and you can see a row of Mon Gong circles on the pedestals in the back. The red one to the far right is now on exhibit at the Fowler Museum. Here's the staff from Fowler Museum helps to transport the Mon Gong circle carefully and safely to the museum. Our world musical instrument collection includes 4 of these ornate vertical gong circles. They are associated with the Mon ethnic minority group in Thailand and Burma, and are related to the Burmese musical instrument called Kibiar. In Thailand, it is played as a part of the Bipadmon Ensemble, as well as a solo musical instrument. Here is a sound example of the Bipadmon Ensemble performing a composition called Adler. The instrument have a hand-carved wooden frame in the shape of semicircle or crescent moon, often painted red at the base and covered with gold leaves, and cut colored glass that sparkle when light strike it. Each of the bronze knob gongs hang by the leather straps tied to the frame and is tuned with mixture of lead and wax attached to the underside of the knob. It is played with the pair of wooden mallets edged with cloth. In Thailand, the Bipadmon Ensemble is often used for funerals, and in some area it is played to accompany outdoor dance drama performances. Usually the Bipadmon Ensemble has at least 2 gong circles set permanently in the front row. But here in the photo of over 50 gong circles, this visually and ornately spectacular ensemble was rehearsing of the funeral performance for a well-known Thai politician. The leader of the rehearsal told me that they would have 99 mon gong circle for this funeral itself. Now, with the support of the UCLA Chancellor's Art Initiative, the Ethnomusicology Department, and the Center for Music Humanities, we are expanding the music of Thailand Ensemble to include instruments from Northeast Thailand, a distinct cultural region with a vibrant folk tradition of music and dance called Pong Lang. Students will begin learning these instruments in the fall, and this music will be featured in the forthcoming symposium and on the World Music Concert Series in the spring. Here is a sound example of the Pong Lang Ensemble. In addition, we hope to feature this instrument and other Southeast Asian instruments in hand-on workshops for students and greater and general community. So please keep an eye on the Herb Alpert School of Music website for announcement about this event in the near future. I hope that you will join us to hear Southeast Asian Ensemble performance in our World Music Concert Series in the spring. To end my presentation, I would like to express my appreciation to the Fowler Museum and their team for having us be part of their exhibition, The Map and the Territory, 100 Years of Collecting at UCLA, the UCLA Herb Alpert School of Music, the Ethnomusicology Department, the UCLA World Music Center, which includes the UCLA Ethnomusicology Archive, World Musical Instrument Collection and Publications, the UCLA Center for Southeast Asia Studies, the UCLA Center for Musical Humanities, and special thanks to Bianca Collins, Otto Stuparitz, and the tech team for sharing the virtual stage with me today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to get right into Q&A so we can get some of these questions answered in the 5 minutes or so that we have left. If anyone has any questions, please go ahead and submit them through the Q&A portal. I'd like to start with the question from Loretta, who says, the metal mon music of Burma, etc., bronze looks similar to the bronze of Indonesia. Has research traced the origins and travel of the bronze instruments in Southeast Asia?
Supeena, do you want to maybe take that one? Because I know you did you did that concert that's trying to show those connections, right?
Well, so bronze musical instruments are appear in Southeast Asia in many cultures and many countries. So what we see are a similarity of the shape and the sound of musical instrument. For example, the pot that you see, right? The knob gong is actually from Indonesia culture. They believe that's representing the mountain. the shape of the mountain. In Thailand, so we also have the similar Gong, but we have in the different shape, in the different setting. So the one that you saw was the Gongmon with the vertical way, this way, like a horseshoe like. And we have so many other kinds. The other one is lay flat on the floor. And also from Burma, they have another kind as well. Well, in terms of origin, I don't know exact how they get to get from countries to countries, but I believe that there are trades and people travel around. Also, during the King Rama V, who traveled to Indonesia. From that trip, musicians got inspired and brought back a few musical instruments from Indonesia and then permanently perform in Thailand as well. Otto, you would like to add anything?
Yeah, I always know there's very exciting research of the Dongsang drums who are from Thailand or from Vietnam and then went throughout maritime Southeast Asia and different places. So there is a lot of interesting research about it, but it's also a little bit of a mystery exactly how the flows went, but they are related and the technology are always great to find those connections between all of them.
Thank you. Richard asks, according to Tao sources, what is the origin of the Bipad Ensemble? I wonder if...
You mean Bipad, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Bipad Ensemble. Okay, so in Thailand we have different musical ensemble. One of them is called Bipad Ensemble, which in a combination of wooden xylophone, gong circle, drums, and the oboe, the double reed oboe. The other one called Krương Sai, which is including string, mainly is focusing on the string instrument and flute. And then the combination of these two ensembles with exceptional musical instruments called Mahori Ensemble, with actually 3-string spike fiddle, similar to the one that Otto mentioned earlier. So the origin of Bipad, this is hard to pinpoint when exact that happened in Thailand, but we have a really strong relationship between Cambodian and Thailand. So the two kingdoms actually share the knowledge of Bipad Ensemble in the regions. And when the king still present in Laos, they also have a similar ensemble called Pinpiat, that's in Cambodia, and Bipad Luang in Laos as well.
Thank you. Okay, what about Amy's question? She's saying, do you think bronze instruments called gong trace their etymology to India via the Sanskrit kaunsa, meaning bronze? Oh, and Richard actually just responded also that there's an old Javanese word for gamelan, which is gangsa, which literally means bronze, which is similar to kangsa.
Yeah, I know Richard and Amy both know a lot about it as well. And
Yes.
so I would think that, but it is interesting because I don't know how much they know about the Dongsang drums and that kind of lineage that go to places in Indonesia like Toraja, and kind of how those places have bronze traditions as well. And they, in their local languages, some of the words don't match those, but in some of Java and larger parts of Indonesia, I think their connections they're pointing to are my best guess for those things. But yeah, I don't know all the way, but there are several counter examples too about kind of different ways of speaking about those things.
Okay, well, that's all we've got time for today. Thank you both so much. Thank you, Otto and Supeena, for sharing such fascinating information and all that archival content about our Southeast Asian music ensembles and UCLA's World Musical Instrument Collection. Your decades of research is clearly the work of great passion, and we're really thankful that you shared your wisdom with us today.
Thank you so much for having us. Yeah.
And thank you to everyone who joined us today. This program has been recorded. It'll be available immediately on our Facebook and in the next couple days on our Instagram and on the Fowler website for you to revisit and share. And we hope that you'll join us for our next program, a global cuisine cooking lesson with African Chop Food Truck. Details can be found on the closing slide. All right, have a great week, everyone. Thank you. Bye.